We are out here, beautiful deep divers.
We got our cycles mixed up. So all of these masters, we think we're so spiritual.
Beautiful deep divers. We're just dancing around. Oh yeah.
That we use, that was only stuff in the past thousands of cycles or thousands of years we had to do just to get some heat off our ass. And we'd raise up to another spiritual plane and wouldn't have to come back to this plane.
I was in nature chilling, a place like this, and I became enlightened.
And we had all these spiritual systems. All that shit is over now because that is comprised in the world that is in the present world, a world of formation. What we're talking about now is a new paradigm, which is the world to come. But I ain't coming to you in a long road, kissing you and all that shit.
Meditated for a little bit, and then became super awake.
And buying down and shit. Oh, sacred, now fuck the goddamn ancestors. They're a bunch of asshole bitches. Who the ancestors? The ancestors. Ancestors ain't nothing but a bunch of chewing tobacco niggas that was down here with you last month. That lost their physical body and they're just as dead as anybody else. And when they was talking about the ancestors in the ancient world, they was talking about the goddamn Titans. We got all that shit mixed up.
And this place is super high frequency.
The original ancestors, guess where the ancestors go to live? Check this shit out. Guess where the ancestors go to live when they leave here? They go to live in the next family members. That's why people start dreaming of their parents right after they die. It's called dead ones in people's heads. We are all one. They inside of you. The key here is the parents are overthrown by children. The children became servants. The parents became servants to the children and worship the children as the Most High gods. Now the Most High gods are these children. They're now old. And they're dying. And that's why we're doing all these cutting up birds and shit to give to them motherfuckers and stuff, because they need that to survive. Meanwhile, we're not understanding that we don't need to give them motherfuckers shit. They don't deserve nothing. Not a damn thing. Them motherfuckers don't deserve a goddamn pack of nabs. Not nary nab. Not nary cookie. Them motherfuckers don't deserve shit. Oh, but it's spiritual. What about if you get sick? Fucking die. That's the greatest shit in the universe is to die. You should love death and long for death. Every day you wake up should be a bad day.
Feels so good to be alive, baby.
You gotta pay for electricity, gas, heat, lights. A waterhead baby fucking with you.
A beautiful place.
A motherfucking child who ain't about shit. Neighbors who ain't about shit. Family members who ain't about shit.
Not awake or aware like you.
This is hell.
I love this place.
This is hell.
I love this place.
It's another agenda by these fallen angels, these false gods, to keep you bound, to keep you imprisoned in a dome. That's the whole plan of these false gods, to keep you in bondage in their heavenly kingdom. If one tactic don't work, they move on to try another one. Now they're trying to bring back this flat earth theory. Oh, the earth is flat and you in the dome and the sun, moon, and stars are in the dome. So nothing goes on outside of this dome, everything is within. That's hellbound.
Stars, planets, sun, moon. Okay, we'll break it in two sections real quick. Stars and the planets, they are projected. They are not there. They are a beautiful, beautiful image. You can look at them. I encourage people to go out and stare at the stars. They're great. The moon is being projected on. I do not know what the moon is, and a lot of people don't either. The sun appears to be a projection system of its own. I hate to say it.
If the Earth is flat, then where does the heat come from? Is the sun even hot?
Good one. You mean the heat from, most of the temperature is underneath. You know, you can control it. You know, it's all the temperature mechanisms are going to be below us. Yeah, the sun's going to give off some heat, obviously. but no more than a big light bulb in a. I know it sounds cheesy, but a big light bulb in a big area like a terrarium.
We're going to stick with the idea that the Earth is engulfed in a vortex, and this vortex have 3 atmospheric layers, which is proven. The ionosphere, the stratosphere, you got the different layers that is proven. And our agenda as physical beings is to live a good corporeal life, do service unto others, so when you cross over in spirit, you could go into one of these higher atmospheric realms based off your works on earth. So if you make it to the second resurrection, you do your works in the second resurrection, and then when it's the harvest time, you graduate into the third resurrection, the third atmospheric realm belonging to the earth and its atmosphere. And then after that, you graduate and go off into the other areas of the cosmos to further educate yourself. And being that the cosmos is endless, that's endless education. But you got to start somewhere. But with the flat earthers, you can't get that. They have no clue of where they're going after death. They have no clue about the spiritual progression. They have no clue about the grades and rates, the service done unto others, what you got to do to even rise to the next grade.
Aloha. There was a whole bunch of information in that first little chunk of video, but it was a good starting point to this video and what I wanted to address in reference to the various layers of engagement within our own reality that we come from. And this is not to project any kind of like judgment or anything on anybody else, because every single perspective that I'm going to share right now is going to be a reflection of my own experience. So I've had to go through the new age mentality. I've gone through the whole like everything is just love and light. It's just beautiful. Just wake up every day and then that's it. And then I came out the other side and was just like, wait a second. It was only about a year. It took about a year. That's when I started to realize that not only is this on purpose, the style of this mentality, it's no different than hopelessness in a destructive world. It was just a lighter version of that. So I came out the other side of that and realized that something is off here. Something is very wrong. And I need to figure out what that is, because I'm sharing this information and these perspectives with my friends and family. And that's the most important thing. Both actual blood, friends and family, and everybody else. Life itself, people themselves, like the innocent, the children, the ones who are subjected to this haves and have-nots program, this authority, control, and dominance over the innocent, the ones who are just maybe not aware of the information that is out there. So when I started to see this new age kind of approach to reality, I started to see a lot of things. It felt really good. I learned a lot of things. At the same time, there was a lot of things that were missing. And having grown up in Oakland, California, which is a pretty heavy duty experience, you see a lot of things, you learn a lot of things, and there are a lot of people. There's a sense of life and awareness coming up through that reality that once you see a hustle, you can point out a hustle right off the bat. Now, you got hustlers that are just going to hustle you because they got guns, because they have control over you, where they're suppliers or whatever. And then you have the lighter hustlers. They're lighter, but they're actually heavier because they come at you in a way that makes you believe that they are for you. Like you don't even believe you're being hustled. Those are the most hardcore hustlers. Perfect example of that is the government itself today. I say the government because anybody who is trying to govern the mentality of the masses is installing a mind control program, an alchemy to control people for the benefit of what? Just look at what's going on today. You don't have to put a name or a label on it. Look at the reality that there is a definite system of haves and have-nots. There are very definite systems that are within that program that built up that authority, that built up that power and control over time, such as the white supremacy program, such as the United States of America is the evolutionary peak of humanity, to where we're just, focused on technology, and we're ushering in the new world, the new age, and all of the intellect comes out of our university system. All of the good movies come out of Hollywood. All of the best thinkers. This is new Rome. It's the new hustle. So there are these various layers of how you get hustled. And you have these people who are not really tapping into the depths of how this program works, thinking that they're doing something right, giving them the benefit of the doubt that they don't know, and actually installing or carrying out these hustle programs on people because they themselves are being hustled. So when you are stuck in a hustle bubble and you try to convince, you can't see that hustle. So when you're in that bubble, you actually start to activate the hustle alchemy without even knowing it. So this is where the new age comes in. This is where portions of or parts of the flat earth community come in, parts of the black conscious community come in, politics itself, parts of the conspiracy theory community come in, the so-called aggressive progressives outside of the mainstream media. These are all hustles. This is not to say, just like in the flat earth stuff, this is not to say everybody involved is aware of what they're doing, because that's the way it works. You're not aware. The majority of people are not aware of what they are doing because they do not understand. They have so many gaps in their reality. Like I was explaining like 3 or 4 videos ago, people who are consumed by the parasite Swiss cheeses their reality, and eventually there's no more cheese. There's just holes. And now the parasite itself fills those holes. And since you are filled with such fullness, you think you got it. You got it. You're tuned in. But no, that fullness is based upon the parasite filling you up, convincing you, like whispering in your ear, that you're full, when in actual fact, you're being controlled and you're hollowed out. So this is no different than the extreme observation of like a demon possession or an incubus or succubus. It's just like being driven by the external reality, whether it's people who are addicted to food, addicted to drugs, addicted to sex, addicted to enlightenment, addicted to the flat earth, addicted to politics, addicted to intelligence, or trying to be intelligence from the university perspective, or addicted to trying to be famous, or addicted to how they look, the material realm, their bodies. It's all these linear projections of your reality that you put outside of you. And it's no different than trying to understand something as non-linear like love. Not the word love, but like I said in a previous video, the word love actually takes away from the experience of love. There's no linear interpretation of what that is. It's all over the place. It goes all over the place. We use this language itself is taking away from our experience when we say, this is it, I got it, that's it, there's nothing else. This is why I shared those videos beforehand. It's not to say, oh, this is right and that's wrong. It's to share examples of different versions of information coming from the same kind of intent. And the new versions, like Flat Earth in the New Age, are out there the flat Earth community, not in the sense of flat Earth. Obviously, the so-called flat Earth has been around for a while, but the commercialization, the community circle of flat Earth as of today, the online community, and then you have the new age community and the online new age community. Everything that's involved in that is, from a very general perspective, like I was saying, they got it. They got it. In reference to the new age, they say, just connect with your star seeds, be love and light, just sprinkle fairy dust, love and light on everything. If something bad happens to you, just, think happy thoughts. If something's going on, it's all about you. It's all about it. That's why they say, the I am, the secret, the law of attraction, everything is synchronicity. It's all based upon centralizing your focus on you. And what that does inherently, as it separates you from everybody else's experience, the collective experience. So I'm not saying that this information is not valid. I'm saying is that it's valid up to a certain point. There's layers of who and what we are. So you have the soul, the mind, and the body. When you're subjected to a physical mind control program, you do stupid shit like joining the army, like I did. But you're doing it for the benefit of, your country. And that's like the commercial version of it. Mostly the people that go in are because they don't have any fucking money. They don't have any resources. They're just kind of like straight out of high school, like I was, and then just like, I need to, travel or do this, and this is pretty much like the easiest way, and then you'll have an experience, you'll learn something. But at the same time, you're not realizing the spiritual warfare in that the first thing that you do when you go into the military is raise your hand and swear your life away to the system. So you are not alive anymore. You are swearing your entire experience away to the system. That's no different than the diet version of swearing your life away to the 9 to 5 or the belief systems that come through the mainstream media. It's just instantaneous when you go in as a soldier, but everybody who is believing in the mainstream reality is a mainstream soldier. Everybody that's around here believing in this Western civilization, colonial, evolutionary peaks of this human experience, you are a soldier of Rome when you don't question your reality to the umpteenth degree from the perspective of the spiritual warfare. You don't have to raise your hand to do that. You just have to remain ignorant to the everlasting growth of this experience and remain ignorant to the way these mind control programs work on us. So the physical warfare is one layer, and signing a contract is one example of being caught up in that world based upon your level of consciousness. If you were at a higher level of consciousness, you would have realized the control grid of the system, and people who have understood and overstood their reality wouldn't do anything, wouldn't even dream of doing something like that because they are very much aware. But when you have a little 17, 18-year-old brand new person right straight out of high school, there's nothing there. There's no essence. You have parents who didn't really have any religion. You have no connections to nature or in a like a conscious sense. Obviously, there's something there where, you can relate and travel and connect. It's there, but there's no way to interpret that. It's just natural, but it's natural to a limitation point because you're not really doing anything with it. So these are all these walls and barriers that we don't allow ourselves to go into. Kids, a lot of the times, don't allow themselves to go into that space because their worlds are based upon their teachers. And the main teachers in those worlds are your parents. So you get up to that point and then you're basically locked into where your parents came from. So they give you good and they give you the bad too at the same time. The stuff that they're not aware of, the stuff that they're ignorant of. And it's up to you to either subject yourself to the bad stuff, the work that they didn't do yet, consume your reality with the density that you innocently took on because of the ignorance of this experience, which is on purpose to overcome and expand and go on and so forth. Or you can also densify your reality, weigh yourself down by consuming yourself with the pride or the ego of your parents, whether that be, thinking that you're rich because they were rich, like literally in money terms, or thinking that you're privileged because they thought they were privileged, or whatever it is, like just taking on and just repeating the pattern. That's basically what it is. If you're just repeating the pattern, then where are you? Who are you? You're nobody anymore. You're nothing. Because you're repeating a pattern. You're just the pattern now, no different than the parasite acting through you. You think you're famous, you think you're that, you think you're this, but you're consumed by the experience and the parasite driving your momentum and your movements within that experience. So your limitation in those perspectives are the inner space, which is the parasite in that example, and the outer space, which is the world that you think that you are based upon that world of limitation, whether it is you think you're a Hollywood celebrity, or you think you're a god over people because you are the manager of Office Depot, or whatever it is. You are saying, this is it. You have said, this is it, and there's nothing else. When you get to that point, that is where you challenge yourself to go further. The easiest way is to get to that, because that's a peak. It's a very much of a peak. And that's the peak that I got to in the new age, where I was just like, is this it? Is this it? Is this everything? Because I feel wonderful. I can tell myself I feel wonderful. I do feel wonderful when I meditate and I go into these places and I'm just like, yeah, this is wonderful. Everything is love and light and beauty. At the same time, I'm hearing these screams on the other side of the earth. I'm seeing all of this destruction that is being carried out. I'm seeing the mind control programs expand. Yes, they might be revealed. They're being revealed at the same time for what they are, which is process. But that's inherent anyway, because that's based upon the collective. The collective is definitely going to start to disassemble this program, because the program itself will max out at the consciousness of the people. So it's basically like the mainstream of consciousness, where nobody has control. Everything is just happening on its own. But that's not, we are more complex than that. Our experience, our intention is more complex than that. You have a meaning and a purpose. So this is for the people individually and collectively in relationship with that individual. So it's very much more complex than convincing yourself through just a meditative outlook that, oh, everything is one and everything is okay, and since everything is getting better, then you don't have to do anything. That's just another way of taking you out. It's just another way of silencing you, because you haven't realized that you haven't activated your meaning and purpose. It's like seeing your meaning and purpose, but you haven't activated it yet. You haven't done anything with it. So what good is it? So because you have this energy in your possession, but you haven't activated it yet, how that manifests into your reality is that you take pride in it. You take pride in something that you are not even in a relationship with, because it's still in a box. You haven't opened up that box and been subjected to all of the information, the challenges, and the work that needs to be done in that box. It's just like I said in previous video, you can't just wear a superhero costume and be a superhero. That's not how it works. But this is how it's being sold to people. This is what happens in the mainstream reality. Their superhero costume is money. Their superhero costume is fame. Another low budget version of that is social media. Social media is another version of superhero-dom when you have 1 million followers on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and whatever the hell is out there. And you done it. You did it. Even if you're broke, because there's a lot of broke-ass million subscriber YouTubers out there. And then, so that's just like another in-between realm between the mainstream media telling you that if you want to be influential or powerful or whatever, you need to dress like this. You need to look like this. You need to wear these clothes. You need to have this kind of bank account. You need to have this kind of car. You need to have this many friends on Facebook and in real life. You need to do this. You need to do that. Like, that is the realm of success in that space. It's all created for you, but it's empty. It inherently is the parasite. So you have the success of, people who consume their reality with politics. And then you have like the alternative news, progressives, and all this stuff. It's all external. It's all information based upon the system. It's about where it's anchored and where the energy is coming from, where the focus is coming from. Are you reactionary, which is what politics is? Are you reactionary? Or are you the one that is holding that energy and observing this reactionary world and the world that is presented to you in the moment? Are you reacting to, or are you analyzing and going with the flow from your projection, from your reality? An example of that is people who are extremes, like children who are very emotional. So anything that presents itself to them, they instantaneously go into fight or flight or emotional, like this is what crying is. From that state, not overall, but just from that state. It's a defense mechanism. And many adults do this too. Whatever defense mechanism is, whether it's actually crying or deflection, avoidance, apathy, the idea of compassion in this love and light perspective, all it is, it's a superhero costume. Just in another version, because what it does is it keeps you away. As long as you are in your box, you are the superhero of that movie. You're the main character. So the superhero of politics, since politics is based upon the illusion of choice, they tell you you have a choice, you vote and all this. They have to give you a whole bunch of different superheroes. So you had George Bush, you had Barack Obama, you had Bill Clinton. Now you have Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump, and Hillary Clinton. And since the consciousness has been so dumbed down for so long, you have the majority of people will buy into that Disney movie, that superhero Disney movie. And they will say, well, that's not my superhero. This is my superhero, Bernie Sanders. Dun-dun-dun-dun. Here he comes to save the day. Hillary Clinton, the first woman president. Here she comes. What about Haiti? Don't say, what are you talking about? What about Haiti? She's coming to save she's going to be the first woman. How dare you? We need change. Do you want Donald Trump? You see how the movies piece together? You get so consumed by the distraction, you don't even go into it's inherent hopelessness. It is political zombieism. You're dead already if you believe into that realm, because you are constantly forgetting that this is New Rome. It's no different. It's an extension of the authority and control colonization of the last however many centuries. It always boils down to your relationship to nature. It always boils down to your relationship to yourself, your experience, your life, and your death. if you have any of these emotions like fear or apathy or any of this stuff that's out there, it's keeping you from growing. This is why the mainstream media does what it does, to keep people in a particular vibration, in a particular state of mind where you never grow into those next realms. You never grow into the next part of yourself, because you've been busy priding yourself in the last level you just achieved, and you stay there. That's where you become a superhero. And when you become a superhero and somebody walks up to your pedestal, your superhero pedestal, and says, hey, there's some work to do over here, but you got to get off that pedestal real quick. And no, how dare you challenge my pedestal? Look at this cape. No capes. People are wearing these capes and thinking that this is it. You got it. No. So when Mark Sargent gets his ass on these interviews and he starts talking about, oh, no, it's only this, it's that. And if you're going to do interviews, it's best that you stay on the message of flat Earth. Okay, what is the message, sir? Captain Sargent? What's the message? It's just flat Earth. That's it. We've been lied to, and it's just flat Earth. And let's just get this ball rolling. There's nothing there. This is why these individuals never talk about anything. This is why, to me, it's so suspicious a lot of the times, because I'm just like, wait a second. You're telling people that we've been lied to, but by not sharing certain information, by not of yourself and of the world of lies that this experience is, you're actually adding to the secrecy, which is the same mechanism that came with this whole heliocentric deception. So this is one of the main reasons why I stay out of those circles, is because if you realize something as crazy as flat Earth to the depths, and then you actually do the work of, seeing, oh, well, that's just one of the lies. It's just one of the mechanisms of control. How about I shut my mouth and start researching all of these other mechanisms of control? What's at the foundation here? Why were we lied to? How were we lied to? No, you're going to put your cape on, you're going to put your superhero costume on and stand on that pedestal and say you got it. And then take it a step even further and talk about, no, it's only a projection. See, that's like extra credit suspicion when that shit starts to come. It's one thing to say the earth is flat and I know everything and, nothing else matters. And as long as we just share that information, everything is going to be okay. It's one thing to do that. It's another thing to say, no, it's flat and everything is a projection. The sun, the moon, all this is a projection. Especially when you have the understanding that the system itself, like Elon Musk, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and Bill Nye, are putting out this whole simulation theory shit. They're putting it out there and saying, this is just a simulation, and they're creating a new universe. The old system was based upon the university system. All these theories, all these mechanisms that made you believe in the system, believe in their universe, believe in their version of who and what you are, the monkey evolution program, all that stuff. It's the core of that is the idea of intellect filtered through the university system. So all they have to do is implode the old university system and install a new version, which is why I say it's so dangerous to only focus on the scientific version of flat Earth and never go into the how and the why, the fact that you've been lied to in the first place. A step even further into being cognizant or just basically discerning your reality. I say suspicious before, but it's basically just discerning and cognizant of what's going on around you. When you realize that there's not only a definite focus only on these particular perspectives, like, oh, it's just about, making flat earth go mainstream. For what? What's that going to do? Oh, well, everything will change. Really? What? Change for what? It's no different than reactionary. It's an intellectual reactionary perspective. And just because it's intellectual and new and conspiracy and fresh and hip and there's a community, then people buy into it easily. Because now you have free access to a superhero costume. Simply because it's fringe. It's outside of all the other circles. Just like conspiracies. But the point is, what do you do with that? What are you doing with that? Most of the time, the answers are nothing. Same thing with New Age perspectives. You have all this love and light, all this compassion, all this unity and oneness and connection, and this information from, wherever. It's so beautiful. It's wonderful. What are you doing with it? Where did it come from? How is it affecting? Oh, no, don't worry about that. Don't worry about those people. Don't say that. You're low energy. Okay. All right. We can play that game. For how long is my point? Because the system banks upon you being distracted because you're too busy putting on your superhero costume every day and playing those games. Whatever it is, it's something that is based upon one layer, one linear perspective of reality. So instead of experiencing your reality from a space of sensories, like another example is like somebody telling you something based upon numbers and words. Well, not everybody learns like that. Some people learn by colors and sound or music. And there's a richness there. There's an infinite space within those kind of realities, whereas numbers and words are kind of finite. You're limited by the math, you're limited by the language, and then the individual itself who's gone into. So inherently there are limitations, and then you have the limitations of the individual who's using those numbers and words. So there's like twice limitationville when just off the get-go. But if you can explain things in colors, in sounds, in music, then there's a richness to your reality that wasn't there before. And that's what's been soaked out of reality. Literally, when they remove the arts from the schools. That's just a confirmation of what they're doing. It's affecting consciousness as a whole. Just using that as a word to explain the gaps between the haves and the have-nots. And you welcome it into your reality with stuff like all these coding classes and all this stuff. I'm pretty sure that stuff's getting into high school right now. They're putting in, it's making you, it's like channeling you into one version of reality. And since that's what the society is doing, you think it's okay, so you welcome it. And it's paying you too. So that's like going back to the superhero costume. The superhero costume of like Hollywood is your car, your money, your social media following, how many times you've been in a movie or whatever, politics. You know what I'm saying? So you have the superhero costume of that. You have the superhero costume of the new age, where you can, and this is like I'm saying, to be aware of the information itself is not bad in itself because you're being aware. That's just pure awareness. But when you put it on, when you wear that awareness like a costume with a cape, that's where it starts to weigh you down. And you can only fly as far as your cape will allow you. And that cape only has so many access codes. So when you go through the information of the New Age and you say, oh, this is good information. Here, I see where this fits here. It's like crystals. Just because the New Age has adopted crystals and that crystal energy and understanding what, like, the molecular structure of water and pretty much the non-physical reality, it doesn't mean that it's bad, the information itself. It's just information, but it's what you do with it. If you're going to wear it like a cape, then you're only going to be able to fly as far as that cape's access codes. And it's externalizing you. And eventually, if you keep wearing that cape, you're going to outgrow it. And a lot of the times, you won't be able to realize that you've outgrown it because eventually you begin to think that you are the cape. You think you are that damn costume, instead of realizing the everlasting growth outside of capes and suits. So when you say anything about anything that's involving the community of superhero capes and suits, people take that personally. So when I talk about the New Age, people take that shit personally because they are in that suit. When I talk about the flat earth, a lot of people take that shit personally because they've worn that suit. They said, this is it. And a lot of the reasons why people say this is it is because that is the atmosphere being projected by those community members that are at the top of that community, who have the biggest capes, the brightest capes. Same thing with politics, actors, New Age influencers like channelers, alien extraterrestrial disclosure people, secret space program people, like all that shit out there. They are your representatives. They are the ones who've told you how to create your cape and your suit and how to wear it and how to do this and how they've told you that. And if they tell you that you're wearing a suit and a cape, then it will reveal to you and them that they are also wearing a suit and a cape. And nobody can be naked anymore. Like when people talk shit, like when you're when you're naked, when you're talking about like the information that doesn't need to be a part of any group, that's just you by yourself. That's what I mean by being naked. It's you by yourself. But ultimately, when you die, who are you with? Everybody, everything, and yourself. Not groups. Not these little particular groups with capes and no. You're back to the beginning in the work that you signed up to do before this experience started. Did you go off track and start wearing all kind of capes? Which is normal. It's possible because that's the alchemy of this experience. Kids do it all the time, trying to be like bigger kids. High school kids trying to be like the cool crowd. College kids trying to get the degree that's going to pay the bills. It's going to be cool. It's going to get you that nice car, that nice house, that nice loved one. Whatever it is, it's another degree of separation from your original work. And for people who are like, oh, it's not like a deterministic perspective. It's just since I understand that there's an experience we choose and so on and so forth. It's a difference between like the broad spectrum observation of what's going on and like the individual decisions. I'm not saying make these individual decisions because this is the way it's supposed to be. I'm sharing this information to share the awareness of the way the system utilizes these general programs, these reactionary programs, to lock people down, to densify your reality, to keep you in a space to where you are either subjected to the density and you fight yourself and destroy yourself, or you're in constant reaction to the density and convince yourself that you are flying in a superhero movie. And what gets lost is the work itself. If you're beating yourself up, you're not going to be strong enough. If you're constantly in fear, you're not going to understand the system itself. to do anything about it. The system's inside of you and the system's outside of you. Same thing goes for the New Age. If you're consuming your reality from the perspective of everything is just okay, okay, great. Now what? What else is there? It's just another version of density. It's light density. It's another version of separation. So instead of being consumed by fear, you're consumed by love. And that's the thing. You learn from fear. You also learn from love. And there are some experiences that challenge you. This is why I explain the dream so much and the importance of dreams, because if you're too caught up in love, you won't understand the evils of this experience. And you might become subjected to them or even activating them in your own experience without even knowing it. And in reference to the New Age mentality, like I said in the last previous videos, evil is not going to come dressed in a costume that says, I am evil. It's going to come dressed in a costume that is the opposite of that, appearing to be the opposite of that. And it's going to say, no, this is the way you're supposed to be. This is the way you're supposed to do your reality. Any other way is wrong. That's another bubble. That's another locking you into a mind control program. It's another superhero costume. And since those energies exist outside of time, they can manipulate your entire world just under your nose and allow you, like the parasite, like I said, that parasite is just like a manifestation of evil. So however many different ways that parasite manifests into your reality is a reflection of that. So I'm seeing that individually, like that parasite in people, like demon possessions and stuff like that. To go into the next layer of that, you have entire communities that are like this. Because once you consume yourself with the perspectives of the community so much and you lose yourself, how is that any different than buying into another belief system that you have to defend and you're not growing anymore? So this is how I'm seeing how all these things are being pieced together. And why I say it's so important to realize that this is an ongoing process. You have the individual world, and then you have like your world, your soul experience, and then you have what's going on with your brothers and sisters. They're not going to be matching up directly because everything is so complex. Everything is in its own time. Everything has its own clock. You never know when your time has come, which is why it's so important to make the best out of the moments that you have every time you choose to wake up in the morning. And ask yourself, why did I wake up this morning? Because some people didn't wake up this morning. A lot of people didn't wake up this morning. Then you have the illusion of people waking up and then they're not awake. So you see how the deception goes further and further and further. And then you can see, if you trace it all the way back from the beginning of what I was just saying in that moment, then you start to realize the importance of utilizing your time rather than being subjected to the density within that time. So they have to, they itself, behind the scene, the parasite that lives off of controlling your time, has to consume your time and convince you to consume your time and convince you to convince future generations to consume their time. Because as long as you're consuming your time like fast food, you're not getting any nutrients from that experience, which means you are hollowed out. And as you are hollowed out throughout that experience because you've been eating fast food time your entire life, every generation that comes after you is going to be that much more hollowed out. This is the intent of the school system, the university system, heliocentrism, capitalism, democracy, all of the Western so-called civilization movements and mentalities and the understandings that this is the evolutionary peak of humanity. There could be nothing else. Everybody before us was just savage and primitive. The ancients were just garbage. So they throw everything out, and then start fresh and say, don't think about your history. Don't think about your present moment. Let's think about the future. Don't think about the history. Let's think about the now. Don't think about, whatever it is. Even in the same, people say, like, don't think about the future. We need to only focus on the past. It's just a matter of what you're comfortable with. Some people say that with me because I reference a lot of the stuff that has come before us. But that's because in order to know where you are and where you're going, you have to know where you've been. You have to understand the cancers, the diseases that are still existing right now in your present moment based upon your past. Otherwise, if you take one step into that future, that density, those diseases, those cancers will be multiplied by the soul, the intensity of that next experience. So for very just basic math, if you have a density of 10 and you don't do anything with that and you step into the higher mind, now you have a density of 1,000. It's going to be that much more intense to work with. You can see this with experiences, life. Now, if you have a density of 1,000 in the higher mind because you never did anything with that, now you think you're stepping into the soul reality or the spiritual realm. Now it's by 1,000,000 because you never did anything with it, because you projected yourself into that superhero cape, and that cape can hold on to a lot of density. And as long as you keep flying through those spaces, you're never really going to do anything with it if you don't slow down and ground yourself before you start to move forward. This is why I come down so hard on the New Age community, is because they've made a business out of this shit. They've said, no, this is it. Just like Flat Earth says, this is it. Only thing you need to do is just be happy every single moment of your life and don't worry about all the other people who are being messed with, all the innocent, all the people who are being destroyed around the world. Don't worry about them. Just focus on yourself, and that's it. And like I was saying, I kind of got sidetracked. You need to do self-work. That's why it's so convincing to people that this is the only thing that exists. There's very definite work that you need to do for yourself before you start to step into the overstanding of what's going on. How I've explained it in previous videos, the soul, the mind, and the body is the same as the overstanding, the understanding, and the understanding. So people get an understanding of what's happening on the physical warfare, then they have an understanding of what's happening on the psychological warfare. But before you can get into the spiritual warfare and understanding what's going on, you have to break the traps of the understanding realm. See, people get into the understanding of the psychological warfare. They think, oh yeah, well, I'm not going to consume myself with conspiracy theories or what's going on with people on the other side of the world. That's their world. That's their journey. They've chosen this experience. Nothing else matters. Evil doesn't exist. People are not benefiting off of this. It's just you, and that's it. That is the epicenter of the New Age mentality. That's the core of that superhero suit and cape. That's the densest version of it. Because what that intention is it locks you in to another version of separation underneath the guise of connection. So when you say, oh, I'm just basking in this good ass prana and everything is just beautiful. Yeah, you might have moments of that. That might even be your main anchor, your main projection. But have you consumed yourself with that at the expense of moving into the next realm, from my perspective, which is the overstanding of how all of the people who are subjected to this haves and have-nots program, this system of authority and control, are also being held back from being to clear those densities, to heal those wounds. See, the New Age, like I said, it says it writes people off. It writes everything. It writes the experience off. It just says, no, that's just it. And this is where, like Bobby Hemmett was saying, this is hell. There's a lot of evidence for that. And like I said earlier, if evil comes in your presence, it's not going to present itself with an evil sign on its chest. It's going to be the opposite of that. The same thing is going to be said for the experience itself. It will be the balances of both. It won't present itself as hell. It'll present itself as an experience that is just bursting with love and compassion and beauty and good ass prana and enlightenment and awakened perspectives and all this other stuff. Yeah. Okay. It's like a flower. Oh, it's beautiful. That same flower, if you were to eat that flower, you're fucking dead. These are the balances that's going on right now. A poisonous flower, it'll kill you. How beautiful is it? So you have people in the New Age community, the core of that is to celebrate the beauty of that flower and completely forget about, not acknowledge, act like it doesn't exist, the balances to that reality. And since we've been consumed by the destructive mentalities for so long, we don't allow ourselves to break that pedestal in order to start over and move into the next realm, because it's too painful. It took too long. For many people, it took an entire lifetime. You have 50, 60, 70-year-old people, it took them to get into the New Age mentality. They spent 50 years of their lives consuming themselves with politics and the densities of the physical, mind control program. So now that they're love and light, there's no way in hell you're going to break them out of that. It's the most beautiful, comfortable place you could ever imagine. What I'm saying is that's dangerous. It's very dangerous if you don't think hustlers can get into that world and hustle you. And what if the entire world itself was a hustle to steal your time? So that's where Bobby was coming from. And that's where he mainly comes from. And that's how I interpret where he's coming from in reference to acknowledging the extremes of this reality. Your potential and the fact that fire might keep you alive, but it will burn your ass at the same time. How is that real in information, language, experiences, communities, and so on and so forth? And can that be manipulated? Can that be worked to work against the people? Of course. And that's what I'm saying, these so-called powers that be, they are aware of this stuff. They know how to work that system. It's been doing it for however many centuries. And today is just the peak of that. So if you think that you're just going to step in to some information like flat earth and all of a sudden that's the answer, it's laughable. That shit it's ridiculous. But that's the norm in this community, so-called flat earth community. And that's what the other brother was talking about, or I leaked his channel, talking about the downfalls from his perspective, the downfalls of the flat earth. In many ways, it's the same way that I perceive. It's not completely the same, but in many ways it's the same way. It's I've been saying from the get-go, and I shared a video. I'm going to share this image and this breakdown in a second of this realm and the realms of yourself. Like I said, the realms of the soul, the mind, and the body, just all in this one mass that we call the body. So you have the mind, the soul, and the body, but there's some very definite differences there. At the same time, you are, depending on where you're coming from, some people think they're the body. Some people think they're only their mind, their intellect. And then some people realize that they're the soul, the vibrancy, the frequencies that exist outside of just the basic physical lockdown. The essence of, like I explained earlier, the definition of love that is forever growing. So you can't have a definition of love. And in fact, turning it into a 4-letter word is a disservice to something like what love truly is. If you were really able to understand what love truly is, you wouldn't be able to stop crying. You'd be crying every moment of it. It's like a dream. Like emotions and dreams are multiplied by no less than 100,000. Grief in dreams, because it's the time. It's the way how long you're experiencing it. Your mind is completely in this non-linear sort of feeling where it's colors and sounds and everything, whereas you have a thought that's very linear in your conscious space, and grief is just like the word. It's just a word, and it's just kind of linear. And you have those moments, which that's the blending, that's the balance between the linear and the non-linear. So love is the same thing. This is why emotions are so much more vibrant in dreams. And that's you reminding yourself of everything else that you are, that you can feel and experience. But if you were to experience that in every moment, it'd be overwhelming, and eventually it'd be just kind of like boring and empty, because why would you want to do that? There's something beautiful in learning something new, in meeting somebody new, in feeling something new, in opening up, in cross-referencing, in making a new song. You can be in a drum circle and you have all these loud-ass people around there trying to be louder than the next person, trying to control the drum circle. It's completely in chaos mode. And in certain times, some of that stuff clears out and you make new music. You start making something that you've never heard before, you've never felt before. People start dancing because of it. That's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. So this is how I experience the growth pattern within these particular realms. You're just dancing around, playing this music within the physical observation of your reality, within the higher mind perspective of your reality, within the spiritual perspective of your reality. And they're all happening at the same time. So you have the inner, the over, and the understanding of your reality. That's all happening at the same time. And the trap is to lock you into one of them. That's a trap you set for yourself, because you can't take that fucking superhero costume off. Because it's safe and you're surrounded by people that are just congratulating on how amazing of a superhero you are in that bubble. Whether it's politics and the physical warfare of understanding, or love and light in the intellectual, psychological warfare of the New Age community, or from like the spiritual realm, it's just like, oh, well, I know it all, and I'm just going to sit down and be quiet for the rest of my life. And this is the only way you need to do it. Just read the Bible, confess your sins to Jesus, and that's it. Like, is that it? Is there gonna be a that's it when you come here in the first place? That's where I have a lot of trouble anyway. When I come here, it's like, is it just one thing? Really? Why? How? And then to realize, like, would one thing really control everybody? Hell no. You need a whole bunch of different versions of that. Different languages, different styles, different harmonics to control different people at different times. One version can control a lot of people. Look at what Catholicism did to North and South America. Look at what it did around the world. There's no separation between the Vatican, the Federal Reserve, and the powers of the so-called powers that be overall. It's one storyline. Can you learn something from politics? Yes. Could you learn something from the Bible? Yes. You can even learn something from these asshole demons walking around trying to take advantage of people. If you haven't hustled before, you'll be hustled. Or been around hustlers, to be aware of what the hustle actually is. You can see it in your everyday life. And when you grow up in inner cities, you're surrounded by hustlers because we already don't have anything. So in order to put food on that table, people got to be working here and there. They got to be able to talk with people, got to help people out. And ultimately, you can boil it down to that's a hustle. On the other end, you have people who have all of these resources. They got millions of dollars in the bank account. They got all of these connections. They made all of these networks. How do you think they would start hustling people? When they have all of the resources, all of the money to do whatever they want, how would they hustle consciousness? How? Look around. Look at how people are balling up, coming together in these little communities and thinking they know it all, thinking they got it. Is that it? That's really it? You say anything other than, the Jews for some people. Oh, you must be protecting the Jews and other. Say anything other than flat earth. Oh, say anything other than Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, the Pleiadians, this channeler, that channeler, love and light, whatever it is. Say anything other than that. You have offended them to the utmost, and there's no way of coming out of that because they have locked themselves into that world, and you are now a threat. So I want to close this video out now. I just wanted to share this last little bit of explanation that I shared before, and it's just a good example of where I was coming from in the beginnings of Flat Earth, because the information itself was cool. It's like, all right, yeah, it's not what we've been told it is. So that means it's our responsibility to start asking questions about what this place is. Now you have a meaning and a purpose. You don't have to put a name, start naming this and naming that and putting all this stuff together like that. If you start doing that, then you're just creating another box, another belief system. If you think it's just going to start making all kinds of sense in 1 year, 2 years, if you think you know it all by then, you're creating another Another challenge for yourself. And we're all hard-headed. That's what happens in this clunky ass world, trying to blend the balances of the linear and the non-linear, the light and the dark. It's gonna take some, you're gonna have some overlapping time, is my main point. So for people who are looking for numbers and words as their answer, you're gonna max out at that kind of language, and you're not gonna understand the colors and the sounds. It's like the hemispheres of the brain. You need both in order to really understand. And then once you understand one side, then that helps you understand even deeper the other side. So you go back into the other side. Once you start to understand and then blend all the information from what you just learned from the other perspective, the other hemisphere, then it opens up doors and information for the other hemisphere, for other work, other challenges that you need to do, and so on and so forth. And this is what I was explaining with the whole solutions. When people ask for solutions, like there's so many going between the hemispheres work that we need to do before we start thinking about solutions. If you stop and lock yourself into one hemisphere and say that's it, you're going to be limited. You're not going to be growing with the balance between the two. And even if you lock yourself into like thinking you have a balance, oh, this is it. I mean, it's the same kind of mechanism. Right now, the obvious thing to me is that we've been deceived. We've been lied to. There's a lot of things that have happened as a result of those lies. There's a lot of diseases, a lot of cancers that have manifested into this reality, into the physical body, into the psychological body, and the spiritual body. And if you think something like flat earth only, the new age only, an alien agenda only, Bernie Sanders only, Alex Jones teaming up with Donald Trump only, Russell Brand only, David Icke's reptilian perspectives going mainstream only, whatever only you think it is, that'll become your reality. Once that shit hits that fan, then you'll be happy until you're not happy anymore, because you've just realized that you put on another superhero costume. And now you're wearing that superhero costume full of shit that you threw at the fan, not even knowing that you were the one throwing the shit at the fan. And when that shit hit that fan, it flew back onto your superhero costume, and now you're wearing a shit-filled superhero costume. Now where the fuck are you gonna fly? What are you gonna do then? So this is why so many of these different communities are so compartmentalized and they can't communicate, because everybody else smells like shit. And everybody's holding each other down instead of realizing that, oh, this world is full of shit in itself. There's so much work that needs to be done naturally, individually. So if you realize that you've been underneath a boot that just stepped in some shit for centuries, you have to understand that there's going to be a lot of work to do. And if you don't do anything with that work, you're going to carry it into the next vibration, the next realm, whatever that is. And it'll be that much heavier, because that shit will now adjust to the frequency, the higher frequency that you, with your so-called free will, took it to. So now you have piles of shit caked onto your superhero costume, dressed in crystals. Crystal covered shit. Or flat earth covered shit. It's the same thing, like I was explaining before in many of the other videos. What the hell does it matter if you're on a flat earth or a round or a globe earth? if the people that are experiencing that experience are still slaves? What's the use? So why not heal the experiencers so they can have a deeper interpretation of what the experience is naturally, instead of just trying to find all the answers and say, oh yeah, this is it. It's just holograms. It's just a simulation. It's just lights. It's just a dome. It's just this. It's just that. Who the fuck told you it's just that? It's just that from just your silly ass perspective. So just sit your ass down for a moment. So I don't even think I need to really go into this breakdown. This actually, I'll share it real quickly anyway. This is just from a book that I read. This is not an endorsement or anything. This book was called The Brotherhood of Angels and of Men by Jeffrey Hodson. And it was interesting in here because there's an image that you're looking at right now that says the universe as described by the angel and his teachings. As a disclaimer, I'm not like saying this is it or anything. I just found it interesting because I think it was either right before or right when I started looking into flat earth information is when I came upon this book. And I learned from everything. Everything that's around me, I'm learning from it. And some things make sense and other things don't make sense. And then, you just take what it is and you go with it. So this came from a book, just like any other information that came from a book that was written by whoever. And it made sense to me in the realm perspective of this. And like the brother earlier was speaking about the work that you do and the work that we need to do before we start going into the next realms, the next frequencies and vibrations of what's going on. See, if you lock yourself into one version of reality, like I said, like you're looking at these pedestals, they can be seen as pedestals. Excuse me, but they're layers of worlds itself. So you're standing on top of the world. But you could only be standing at the top of the world of the mortal solid state. The one at the bottom, the world of flesh, building angels, the beginning of the road. And then on the right side, you see the world of form, the universe, and the formless worlds. The real, or it says not the universe, the unreal, and the real, or the formless worlds. Then you have the river of truth that is connected to all of those realms based upon the frequency of the realm itself. So the river exists. It's the information. It's just, and you're expressing that river based upon the way you express yourself within that realm, whatever realm that you subscribe to. At the essence, you are at all of these realms, but you have chosen to have this experience, which we call the mortal world right now. And this is how I see it, where the most fucked up things can actually happen, because you're challenging yourself to go into the higher worlds. So you go from the world of flesh into the world of feeling. But it's not just happy-go-lucky love and light feelings. You have to feel the depths of that shit. It's not just wonderful feelings. It's feeling, period. So the new age tells you, only feel like this, only for yourself. It doesn't, in reference to this image, it doesn't allow you to feel more deeply by empathetically tuning in to the experience as a whole. That's where I say the commercialization of that synthetic universe that is the new age world, realm itself. It's a side realm of the world of flesh. So when you start saying, oh, this wonderful, good-ass prana and all this other stuff, you've created a synthetic universe of feeling within the world of flesh in order to cope with the downfalls of the world of flesh. But you haven't really done the work. You created a synthetic universe. And what happens is, when you create that synthetic world of feeling, you can only create that synthetic world of feeling if you have gotten to the cusp of the mountain of the world of flesh to begin with. So you have a choice to keep going into the world of feeling, which will hurt, which will challenge you. Or you have a choice, the other choice, which is to create a synthetic world of feeling and convince yourself, trick yourself, cast a spell on yourself, telling you that you actually did it. You made that step. And if you've synthetically taken those steps day after day, eventually it's going to become real. This is the short circuiting that happens in the New Age community when everything is just, fairies and wonderful. And they've separated themselves from the people who are living today that are still subjected to this program. And the reason why it's so complex, or one of the reasons why it's so complex, is because many people in that New Age community are also so-called conspiracy theorists. So they have an awareness of what's happening in the dense world, the lower vibrations worlds. But what makes them believe it is the simplistic interpretation of good aliens and bad aliens. And then they just say, oh, well, I'm a part of the good alien team. It's just another version of the Hegelian dialectic. Democrats or Republicans, good aliens, bad aliens. So they have this synthetic empathy, this synthetic interpretation of what's going on based upon the information that gets channeled through that synthetic universe that is this New Age interpretation of the Cabal, the Illuminati, the Reptilians, the Pleiadians, the Anunnaki, and so on and so forth. The ancient aliens' perspectives of this universe. They buy into all that stuff. And that closes the gap artificially, parasitically, closes the gap of the compassion that needs to be made with people around the world who are subjected to this system as a whole. So that's the artificial fullness generated by artificial or a synthetic information that connects them to that realm. So they make it okay. They say, it's okay. It's fine. The good angels will take care of it. I don't have to do anything. I'm not a part of that reality. That's their reality. That's their karma. Oh, really? You're not looking into all of the systems that have led up to why masses of people, you have no way of explaining to people. You're not benefiting from that? Look at all the people who benefit from redlining, who benefit from white supremacy, who benefit from generations upon generations of enslaving people all across the earth, genociding people all across the earth, creating systems like this across, like the Federal Reserve, all across the earth, benefiting descendants of the enslavers at the tippy top of the pyramid. There's nothing, that's just their karma. They manifested that karma. From what? From who? What did the Rockefellers, what kind of karma did they manifest from? What energy are they pulling from? Have you gone into that? Have you thought about that? Most people don't, because once they do that, then you start to open up a new world of challenge, a new world of observation that starts to put a non-physical face to these non-physical entities or energies that parasite off of the innocent. That point right there completely destroys the New Age general interpretation of this reality, because it destroys all the prescription drugs that they say, well, like, that's their karma, that's their reality, the aliens will come and save everything. Really? Good luck with that. So you see this road over here. I don't want to go too deep into this. This video has gone on long enough. I broke this down a while ago. I can't remember which video it was, but I might go into interpreting this in the future sometime. But I just wanted to share this with people as an example of, like the brother earlier in this video was explaining, the work that doesn't get done. Once you start going into how and why of flat earth, you start going into the work that he was talking about in reference to the realms, the spirit, the understanding and the overstanding. If you just stay in the understanding of the science of flat earth, then you are setting yourself up to be co-opted by the same enslavement program that sold you heliocentrism in the first place. And it's safe there. It's comfortable there. You've reached the mountaintop of the mortal world of understanding. And just like the New Age, you are faced with the option to create a synthetic interpretation or understanding of this reality and say, I know it all, I got it, it's just flat and that's that. Or go deeper into how and why, the understanding and the overstanding of what's going on here. But since it's all based upon your choice, your level of consciousness, what you are choosing to go through, what you're choosing to experience. I don't knock people. I'm not knocking people for doing whatever it is they're doing. I don't give a shit if people are going to do whatever it is they're going to do. I've already processed all that shit. I wouldn't be able to share all this information if I had an attachment to individual choices being made. That's why I get so like, what the fuck are you talking about when people are saying, well, I'm not talking about this and you think I should be talking. No, I'm not saying that. I'm sharing this information. If you are taking offense to it, as if I'm projecting it onto you, is that all me or is that also part of you? And in this moment, I'm telling you now, I don't give a shit individually what it is that you do, because I know only person that can change you is you. So what the fuck? It's only you that's going to be able to look at this information and start processing what's going on in your own time, in your own way. I know that. I'm constantly saying that. So with that knowingness comes the knowingness that people are on their own process, in their own way, in their own time, and will do this or not. Some people will live and die sitting on the pedestal of that synthetic universe. And that's it. That'll be their entire life. Is there anything wrong with it? Of course not. They chose that life. Now, I've gone through experiences which helped me break a lot of those codes. So I feel it as an artist in me, in order to help people, just like other people helped me, I will share this information. And that's what I'm doing. So you can either take it or leave it. I don't give a shit. But as long as I keep growing and learning stuff, I will keep sharing this information. So that's where I'm coming from. And that goes back to what was said earlier about the realms and the downfalls. It's just a deeper interpretation of the downfalls of something like the flat earth community. It's no different than the downfalls of the New Age community. The work doesn't get done. The how and the why of control and authority will never get done in the New Age community, because people are just locked into how wonderful everything is. Everything is just good ass prana. Just wake up in the morning and hurry up and get outside and suck up that good ass prana and just be wonderful. Be wonderful. What's wrong with you? You're not wonderful? This place is wonderful. All right. There's a time to be wonderful, and then there's a time to be burning some shit down. You have to engage these elements. The fire, the earth, the air, the water. All anchored in the non-physical of the experience itself. The ethers. Your soul. What kind of soul work are you doing? You won't ever fucking know if you're consuming yourself with the superhero costume of an air sign, the superhero costume of a water sign, of a fire sign, of an earth sign, even of an ether sign, because it's all synthetic. They all work together, inside and outside. And if you consume yourself with either one, this is why a lot of people in the New Age community are locked into astrology, and then that's it. It's just astrology. You're locked in to your star signs, where your planets are, what house is it. That's it. That's all you are. Nothing else. Is that it? No different than flat earth. Is that it? So that's basically what I wanted to share with this video. I'll get into this, the world of thought, the world of joy and peace and unity. See, all this stuff that you're reading now and have been reading, you can interpret this on your own. People who know what I'm talking about, I really don't even have to go into interpreting this information, because it's just information that people are either going to get something from it or not. And I pretty much explained how the information gets tweaked in that bridge I was talking about. See, the bridge on this image, you can see it's up in the world of joy and peace. Sound familiar? Like the New Age? They create their own artificial road, their own artificial joy, and their own artificial bridge, all based upon prescription drugs. Whatever belief systems, meaning prescription drugs, belief systems you've created for yourself because you didn't challenge yourself to go into doing the work that needs to be done to get off of that pedestal. And a lot of people are not going to be able to realize that they're on a pedestal because they've made that pedestal so large. They themselves and the they of the system itself. It needs to make these pedestals, the horizon needs to go so far out that so many people fit on that pedestal that nobody questions the ground that they're standing on. Literally. And when you don't even question that, you're never going to be able to go any further than the world that was generated for you, to believe in the first place. It's just another belief system. So, I think that's enough. I've gone on long enough with this video. Yeah, there's a lot more out there. Once we start doing the work of the how and the why, it'll make it easier to understand this experience as a whole, this world we call like flat earth. A lot of people call flat earth, and whatever it is. Like I said, the experiencer is the pivot point of this experience, and vice versa. I know that's kind of like weird, but it's one and the same. It's like the left and right hemisphere. It's the same thing. It's just a different style. So if you lock yourself into any one of them, you're going to be doing the balance of it, of all of it, an injustice. And when you do that, when you lock your balances into an out of balanced reality, that's where the synthetic worlds start to manifest. because you have to adjust every step. Now, like, it's like having one shoe that's taller than the other. Eventually, you're going to get used to it. You wear it all your life. And then what happens? You take those shoes off. You don't even know how to walk anymore. So walking regularly feels like you're walking funny. Like, wait a second. You've been wearing that old crooked ass shoe for 15 years. Telling me I'm walking funny. Get the fuck out of here with that. Crooked shoe ass wearing motherfucker. On that note, thank you for thank you for joining me. And until next time, from all my relations, peace, love, and harmony.